I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be where confidence comes from. In other words, what you can do to build your confidence, because as you've heard me talk about before, if you've been watching my videos for a while or reading my articles, is that the number one most important thing that women find attractive about men is guys with confidence. And so I've had guys write me, seems like every week I get a guy asking me, how do I get confidence? How do I build my confidence? Well, as I talk about a lot, repetition is the mother of skill. And what I teach guys to do is to learn my material, read my book, and you want to read it 10 to 15 times to the point where you literally you learn it so well you could teach a class on it if you had to. Because you want to get to know the material so well because there's a lot of information. There's the pickup phase, there's a dating phase, there's a relationship phase, and each one of them requires different types of skill sets. And so when you're interacting with a woman, you don't have time to try to research through your book or scroll through the Kindle version to try to find a note that you made so you can respond properly. The bottom line is if you don't know the material, you're going to be making unnecessary mistakes. They're going to be blowing your chances with women that you could have hooked up with had you have known the material better. And so like I say, repetition is the mother of skill. And what I teach guys to do to lose their fear of interacting with women on their own is instead of dropping thousands of dollars for a boot camp, which you can do that, and there's lots of great companies out there that do those things, but this way you can go to the mall and just start talking to people and interacting with people and asking opinions and asking questions of people that you encounter in the mall and get in the habit of developing your social skills and talking to people. And what happens is as you do this over and over again over the days, weeks, and months, as you practice this stuff, what happens is over time, you literally interact with hundreds of different people. And so when you interact with hundreds of different people, you start to see the patterns that I talk about in my book. You start to be able to recognize and tell women that you got a shot with and that women that you don't. So you can move on. And what most guys do is they get fixated on one perfect girl or the girl that they think is, this is it, I just got to get this one girl, because that's what they see in all the TV shows and the movies probably 10,000 times since they were little boys, that when one boy meets a girl that he likes, girl usually doesn't like him, and then as long as he likes her enough and he chases her enough and he stalks her enough, eventually she throws in the towel and decides to make mad passionate love to him when they grow up and they live happily ever after. And sometimes it takes a decade to get that girl, but just keep trying and ignore the restraining orders that you get, because just keep going after her, and eventually she'll throw in the towel and realize what an idiot she was, that she should have dated you 10 years ago. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's what a lot of guys do, is they get so fixated on one chick. You can see from the articles that I write, I'll get guys that'll write me, I'll tell them exactly what to do, and then they'll send an email, great, I got it, I'm going to do that, and then 3 weeks later, a month later, they're still writing me about the same girl, telling me, oh, well, I sent her this long letter, and it's like they continue to try to chase and force something to happen when she's already blown them off. And what happens is months of their life goes by, and they're only talking to or trying to make something happen with a girl where it's going absolutely nowhere, and then they're not meeting or interacting with any other human beings, and so they don't get any better because they're not practicing their skills. Like I say, repetition is the mother of skill. Think about it this way. When you learn to ride a bike, obviously you didn't hop on it the first time and ride, never fall down. You probably started out with training wheels, and then you kind of took the training wheels off, and maybe you had a parent or friends running behind you that knew how to ride a bike and holding you up so you could learn the art of balancing. It takes time, just like working out. When you first start working out with weights, the first time in your life, it's very awkward, it feels weird. But after you've done it a couple hundred times, like in my case, thousands of times over the past 20-something years of my adult life, and back when I was a teenager, because I've worked out off and on mostly my whole life, and until you get to a point where you're consistent and you learn your routine. But I've literally worked out thousands of times, so I don't have to think about my workouts. I don't have to think about the exercises I'm going to do or how many reps I need to do, or how many I'm going to do of each, or how many sets I'm going to do of each exercise, because I've done it so many times I don't have to think about it anymore. It's like when I started writing articles a few years ago. I'm not a writer. In my first book, I didn't write it. I knew what I wanted to put into it, and I spoke my book into existence basically with the help of a ghostwriter. And she took my words and our conversations and put it down into a book because she's a writer. She's an expert at being a writer. But on my website and in my emails, it requires a lot of writing. And so I spent a lot of time learning how to write articles and just by practicing. And so when I first started out, sometimes I'd be pulling my hair out, even though I shave all of it off. But I was very frustrated because I might spend 8 or 10 hours trying to do one article. And then I've got, here I am 2 years later, and I've got to the point now where I can spend a couple hours on a really short article and do something really good that offers a short, concise piece of advice relating to a specific situation that some dude is in who's applying what I teach in my book. And so everybody that reads that can learn from that. And so, like I said, where confidence comes, confidence is simply doing something that you know how to do and doing it really well. And the only way you can get to know how to do something really well is by doing it over and over and over again. And a lot of guys that are scared to talk to women, like I got an email today from a guy that subscribed to my email list back in December. And it's for 7 months, and I can tell that he's basically complaining about the information I'm giving him, and it's not helping him. But I could tell he hasn't done anything. He probably hasn't even talked to one girl in 7 fucking months. 7 months of his life has gone by and he hasn't talked to one woman. And he wonders why his life hasn't changed and it hasn't gotten any better. That's what most people do. They sit around, they complain about what's not working in their life, and that justifies not doing anything to help themselves. So this guy's pissed away 7 months of his life he'll never get back. And whereas if he'd have been applying this stuff since day one, he'd been getting laid all the time by now. But basically, he's still at the same place that he was back in December, which is on the starting line. He hasn't even got off the starting line yet. And that's the worst thing you can do. I mean, imperfect action is better than no action at all. Whether you're in business or you're sales, I mean, think about a job that you started at one point in your life, and when you first started it, you were terrified of that you weren't going to be able to figure out, or you'd never make it and you'd end up getting fired. And then after you were there for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you knew how to do your job like the back of your hand. You could literally sleepwalk through it. I'm sure you've had that experience. Well, so when it comes to talking to women, it's the same thing. So you interact and you talk to enough women, you make up conversations with them, just ask them questions. And after you talk to several dozen women, you'll realize that some women are more enthusiastic to talk to you than others. And as you do it over and over, and then you get to the point where you're comfortable asking for phone numbers, what ends up happening is you really only end up asking for phone numbers of women who seem to be very enthusiastic when they're talking to you, because you've done it enough and you realize that when a girl's really enthusiastic, she's touching your arm and she's asking you questions about yourself, she's laughing at all your stupid jokes, and you ask enough of those women for their phone number, what you realize is a lot more of them will give you their phone number than women who are maybe lukewarm. And so over time, you just gradually spend more time talking to women who you got a shot with. And as the months go by, and then you've already called dozens and dozens of women that you got phone numbers on to schedule dates. Then what happens is you get better at making dates on the phone, and you're able to tell just by the tone of their voice or whether they're excited that you called or not. And it really becomes a numbers game. And so the more you do it, repetition becomes a mother of skill. And then it's when it goes from making dates, and then you after you've made enough dates, then you go out on enough dates. Some of them will probably end up canceling, but it's just the way it is. But that's okay, because not all women are going to like you, and you're just trying to get to the bottom line numbers. Are you in or you out, honey? Without saying that, obviously. But that's what you want to know. And so the more you do it, the more dates you go out on, the more times you take a chick out on a date, and then you go for the kiss, and you make out with her, and then you take her back to your place, or you go back to hers. You do it enough times, you get into her house, she gets into yours, and then one thing leads to another, and then it ends in the bedroom. Maybe the first 2 or 3 times you can't get it all the way, meaning you can't get her all the way to the point where you're having sex. But after you've done it maybe a dozen times, or you've had a dozen different women in that position, then you learn the art of it. And then what happens is every time you take a chick home, you end up sleeping with her. And then that becomes your paradigm. That becomes what you're used to. And so when you go out and you talk to people, you realize you're not going to ask every girl for her phone number like you did in the beginning, because you want somebody who's really there, who really wants to be with you, who's really excited to be with you. Because when you get used to hanging out with women who are calling you and chasing you and blowing your phone up and want to be with you and who are crazy about you and are calling, oh, I miss you, I want to see you, and they're telling you things like that, that builds your confidence. And the more cocky you get, not that you're going to be a dick, but it's confidence. And confidence comes because you've gone through so many repetitions, and repetition builds your skill. And we've done it over and over again. You get to the point where you literally can look at a woman's eyes and know if it's on or not. And when you get to that point, then it's just a matter of going up to the right one or knowing when everything's right. And then the relationship's effortless, meaning from the moment you meet, you're planning time to get together, and you get together. And it's like every time you're together, it's like you've been together for a decade already, even though you may have only known each other for a few minutes or a few hours or a few days. And it's always like that with her. And so you don't hold back, and neither does she. She's chasing you and trying to win you as much as you're trying to win her. And it's just easy. It's effortless that way, but you got to work up to it. Like I said, it doesn't come overnight. It takes time. But the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And so this is the first step. And so if you find this message of value, you can show your appreciation by going to my website, understandingrelationships.com. Click the PayPal donate button, which is at the bottom of your screen on the Wibbia toolbar, and donate any amount that you feel is equal to the value of the information in this video. At the very least, please share this video with all your friends and family by clicking the social network sharing buttons, which are on the underneath the video if you're watching this video on YouTube. If you got a question that you want to ask me, or there's a topic you want me to cover in a future video newsletter, click the Contact Me tab on the left-hand side of your screen and send me 1 to 2 paragraphs max detailing your questions, your situation, or your challenges. And just give me several days to get back to you with a response, because I get a lot of email from the internet. And I also get a lot of it from my paying phone coaching customers. And I obviously got to focus on their emails first. But be patient, and I will get back to you. And if you want to talk to me right away, the quickest way to get my help is to book a paid phone coaching session. And you can do that by clicking the Products tab on any page of my website, understandingrelationships.com, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.